And start the meeting.
All right, then I'm going to welcome everyone. Bear with us. This is the largest virtual meeting we've done, so I'm sure there'll be some hiccups along the way, but we'll do our best here to try and get everyone in here. I'm going to remind Council of the declaration of pecuniary interest if it arises. And the purpose of this meeting is a public meeting to discuss the official plan, zoning bylaw amendment, and prohibit dryland boathouses on Jack's Lake and designate Sharpe Bay as at capacity. We're addressing Jack's Lake today and Jack's Lake only. No decisions are going to be made today. This is to collect information for council in the future to move this forward. The meeting's being recorded and posted on YouTube for anyone that wants to watch it later, if it's too hard to sit here for the whole meeting. In the essence of time, please be concise with when you're presenting your submission, and keep in mind that you can email your submission and it'll be dealt with the same way. And the council will see it. So if you could keep your video off like most have right now, and mute yourself until I call your name. I do have a list here. At the time of publishing the agenda, we had 13 participants and 23 observers, but we do realize more came in afterwards, and we will get to everyone. But like I said, and if you find that somebody's already said something that you wanted to say, a short email would work just as well as instead of presenting. If it's something exact same as what you were going to say, time-wise, it means just as much by getting an email, and we're going to look at everything here. So, and one other thing is our system did do an update last night for the computer system in the township, and things crashed overnight. So hopefully everything is up and running right now. It sounds like everything is back, so that'll be a good thing. So, anyways, so the official wording for this meeting is proposed official plan amendment is to amend section 3.3.3, or sorry, 3.3.4.10 trout, lake trout at capacity lake, to add item F as follows. At capacity lake trout lakes are lakes which have been determined by the province to be at capacity for development with respect to additional nutrient loadings which may adversely affect water quality. Development and or site alterations will not be permitted on highly sensitive lake trout lakes unless it can be demonstrated through site-specific studies that there will be no negative impacts on the lake. The following list identifies the lake trout lakes in the township which are identified as being at capacity or new development and site alterations. At capacity lake trout lakes, Sharpe Bay, Jack's Lake. We also add section 3.3.4.11 cold water lakes as follows. Section 3.3.4.11 cold water lakes. Cold water lakes and streams are considered by the Ministry of Transportation, or Ministry of Natural Resources and the Ministry of Environment to be critical habitat for the maintenance of a healthy cold water fishery. The township recognizes the importance of the cold water lakes and streams and shall generally permit development to take place only in a manner that does not adversely affect habitat essential to maintenance of a healthy cold water fishery. B, the Ministry of Natural Resources, in conjunction with the Ministry of Environment, shall monitor fish habitat, including water quality in selected cold water lakes in the township identified below. The results of modeling program shall determine the development capacity of each cold water lake. The following is a list of township cold water lakes, Jack Lake. And add section 3.3.4.12 boathouses on Jack Lake as follows. The development of boathouses shall be prohibited on Jack Lake, notwithstanding existing boathouses may be rebuilt, repaired, and strengthened in accordance with the province provisions of the zoning bylaw. And the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is to amend 2.0 existing definitions as follows. Existing means lawfully existing on the date of passing this bylaw. For boathouses, existing means lawfully existing as the date of passing of bylaw number 2021, and whatever the date ends up being that we get on with this. And amend section 4.22 to add the following: marine facilities on land. On land boathouses are prohibited on Jack's Lake, notwithstanding existing boathouses may be rebuilt, repaired, or strengthened in accordance with the provisions of section 4.10 of the bylaw. We do have our planning consultant Foten here for a delegation here. He's going to be explaining a little further here, and then we'll move into the submissions that were provided to us. So Mike Keane, if you would like to welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Martin. My colleague Montana Coletti, another planner in my office, is going to deliver the public meeting presentation. And then following the presentation, we'll hear questions from yourself and council, and then we can attempt to also hear from the public and address comments from them as well. So Montana's going to deliver the presentation, and I'm just trying to figure out how we are able to share our screen.
I think Bianca could do that for you.
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin, we will share the screen from our end. If you can just guide us through the one screen at a time, that would be great.
Yep, I will. Okay, so good morning, Mayor Martin, members of council, and members of the public. My name is Montana Coletti, and I'm a land use planner at Foten Planning and Design in the City of Kingston. Foten was engaged by the Township of HBM in December of 2020 to undertake a review of the regulation of on-land boathouses on Jack Lake, recognize Jack Lake as a cold water lake, and acknowledge the at capacity development status of Sharpe's Bay. We are here today to present our recommendations for additional official plan policies and zoning bylaw provisions, which align with the direction of both the township and the county. We will also provide a summary of the findings of our background report, which was prepared in support of the proposed amendments. Next slide, please. So Jack Lake lies within the township of HBM and North Kawartha. The lake features numerous channels and islands, which divide the lake into 4 distinct basins. So the image on this slide shows an aerial view of Jack Lake, and it illustrates the township boundary and the portion of the lake which is regulated by North Kawartha, and the portion of the lake which is regulated by the township of HBM. Next slide, please. So the image on this slide illustrates the extent of the Sharpe's Bay Basin, which is shown in red, which is the largest and deepest of the 4 lake basins. In 2006, the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry delisted Jack Lake as a natural lake trout lake, as it was believed the species population had been eradicated. However, netting programs completed by the ministry in 2008 and 2009 collected lake trout of different sizes and ages from several shoals in the Sharpe's Bay. Further capacity assessments were undertaken in collaboration with the Ministry of the Environment and Climate Change, and this work included an assessment of oxygen and phosphorus levels in Sharpe's Bay, which are key indicators of water quality. The collected water quality data determined that Sharpe's Bay was at capacity for development, and that municipal land use planning decisions around Sharpe's Bay should not result in a net increase in phosphorus loading to the lake, impacts to habitat, or reductions to lakeshore carrying capacity. Sharpe's Bay was relisted by the ministry as a lake trout lake in 2015. To date, amendments have not been completed to the township's official plan or zoning bylaw to reflect the at capacity status of Sharpe's Bay. And so those are the policies that we're here to recommend today. Next slide, please. So in 2019, council directed staff to undertake a study to determine an appropriate size limitation for dryland boathouses. As part of this exercise, an online survey was provided to all the lake and cottage associations within the township. The survey had an overwhelming response from Jack Lake residents, emphasizing the desire for a general ban of dryland boathouses on Jack Lake. It should be noted that a majority of respondents also indicated a desire to continue to permit the repair or reconstruction of existing boathouses, within their original size and location. Given the overwhelming response from Jack Lake residents, council directed staff to move forward with official plan and zoning bylaw amendments to prohibit the development of dryland boathouses on Jack Lake. Next slide, please. So the township's current zoning bylaw has the following provisions in place to regulate boathouses in the township. It provides a definition for boathouse and marine facility. It prohibits on-land boathouses throughout, or on-water boathouses, throughout the township. It permits on-land boathouses in the yard abutting the high water mark, and further regulations for on-land boathouses are provided through the provisions of accessory buildings, which are limited to a maximum height of 4.5 meters. So in 2011, the township initiated the process to approve a new official plan, and an update to the zoning bylaw was to occur at the same time, which would align the zoning bylaw with the policies of the new official plan. The new official plan and zoning bylaw update were adopted by council in November of 2012. However, both documents were appealed to the Ontario Municipal Board. While these documents provide additional regulations for boathouses, they remain under appeal and are not currently in effect. Next slide, please. A review of neighboring municipalities was completed to provide a perspective on shoreline and in-water regulation in other jurisdictions to ensure that a consistent approach is applied within the township of HBM. The township of North Kawartha currently prohibits the development of boathouses throughout the township. However, existing boathouses may be rebuilt, repaired, or strengthened in accordance with the zoning bylaw. The township of Duro-Drummer currently prohibits in-water boathouses. However, on-land boathouses are still permitted. It is recommended that a similar approach as North Kawartha be taken in the township of HBM to ensure that there's a consistent approach to the regulation of boathouses on the entirety of Jack Lake. Next slide, please. The township's official plan provides policy direction for lake trout at capacity lakes, which indicates that the township will work to identify lakes that have reached development capacity. In keeping with the findings of the ministry, we recommend adding a provision to recognize Sharpe's Bay of Jack Lake as being at capacity for development with respect to additional nutrient loading, which may adversely affect water quality. Development and site alteration will not be permitted on highly sensitive Lake Trout Lake unless it can be demonstrated through site-specific studies that there will be no negative impacts on the lake. Next slide, please. It is also proposed to add additional policies to the official plan to recognize the entirety of Jack Lake as a cold water lake. Development on cold water lakes shall generally only take place in a manner that does not adversely affect habitat essential to the maintenance of a cold water fishery. Next slide, please. It is also proposed to add an additional section to the official plan to provide policy direction for boathouses on Jack Lake in accordance with the finding of the ministry. So this section would read, the development of boathouses is prohibited on Jack Lake. Notwithstanding, existing boathouses may be rebuilt, repaired, or strengthened in accordance with the provisions of the zoning bylaw. Next slide, please. We recommend the following changes be made to the township zoning bylaw to ensure it aligns with the proposed official plan policies. This would include amending the definition of existing to recognize existing boathouses as boathouses lawfully existing as the date of this bylaw amendment. So that would be the date that this amendment is passed, and adding subsection 4.22.2, which speaks to marine facilities on water to prohibit the development of on-land boathouses on Jack Lake. Notwithstanding, existing boathouses may be rebuilt, repaired, or strengthened in accordance with the provisions of section 4.10 of the bylaw. The proposed changes provide flexibility, and they also allow for the repair or construction of existing structures while prohibiting the development of new boathouses. So in summary, the township's official plan provides a good basis to establish more contemporary regulation over shoreline development, similar to what we see in the neighboring township of North Kawartha, which currently prohibits the development of boathouses on a portion of Jack Lake. We also recommend that boathouses be prohibited on the entirety of Jack Lake to ensure that appropriate protections are in place to preserve species habitat and minimize potential increase in phosphorus loading to the lake in accordance with the findings of the ministry. Next slide, please. So the image on this slide outlines our current progress and the next step moving forward. So we've completed our background report and we received directions from council to hold a public meeting regarding the proposed amendments, which is what we are doing today. So the intent of today's meeting is to provide an opportunity for the public to comment on the proposed policies and to provide additional feedback. A recommendation report will then be prepared and presented to council, and this report will assess the feedback received today and it will include the proposed amendment text. VOTEN will then present the recommendation report to council, and council will make a decision on the applications for official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment. So to clarify, no decisions are being made on the applications today. Next slide, please. So that concludes our presentation. Myself and my colleague Michael Clean would be happy to address any questions you may have. We have had the chance to review all the public correspondence that has been received to date in writing, and we'd be happy to address any further comments from council and then to address any comments the public may have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Montana. And what I was thinking is maybe council, if you have any questions, if they pop up during the meeting, go ahead. But if we can keep them till the end, that would be great. And we'll try and move through this. We did get a number of submissions, like Montana said, and they are in a file to be reviewed. And we are going to be taking emails up until we're figuring May 31st. So if anybody wants to get something in by then, that would be great, and that saves some time today. We're not trying to rush this thing. We just there is a lot of people to speak here, and we just want to save on duplication and get the job done here as far as hearing from everyone. So so I'm going to go through the list that I have here right now that came in when the agenda was prepared, and then I'll open it up to anyone that didn't make it in time for the agenda part of it, but are waiting to speak. So I'll start, and what I'll do is I'd like you to keep to at least 10 minutes or less. I'll let you know when your time is running out, and I'll name the first. I'll go in threes here. I'll list 1, 2, and 3 to speak in that order, and that way you can be prepared when your time comes. So the first name I have on my list is John Lassinger. The second is Neil Lance, and the third is Oren Steinman. So I'll start with John Lassinger, and you can do your presentation or your submission, and the other two could be prepared when your name comes. I will ask a couple of times before I move to the next one. So John, are you ready?
Yes, I am. I'm reminded of Yogi Berra. This is deja vu all over again. 10 years ago, a group of us fought against an inland boathouse that was being put in Jack Lake without any permits and from any level of government. And we tried to convince the council that they had jurisdiction over this inland boathouse. And I guess the question I have today is the legal counsel for the township I didn't have our back on that issue. And I wonder if the legal counsel today has our back if we want to prohibit on-land boathouses. And I am a strong believer. I'm a progressive conservative on the environment, and progressive on the environment, and conservative on most fiscal matters. So does the legal advisors will they support what you're trying to do now? I don't have enough knowledge to speak to the other two issues. And I think maybe we should just perhaps, as most governments are doing, except in Ontario, they're following the advice of the scientists, that perhaps we should just follow the advice of the scientists in the designation of Jack Lake under the cold water and the act capacity. So those are my brief remarks. And I'd be interested at some point in knowing whether or not you have the support of your legal advisors who made a mistake 10 years ago. It got corrected 5 years ago by the government, and all inland or in-water boathouses are now prohibited. But they made a mistake then, and will they support you now? Thank you very much for listening.
All right, and thank you. And these are the sort of questions or comments that we're going to be dealing with later, as far as that would be the first thing we would be looking for, is to make sure that we do have the support. So thank you, John, for that. And yeah, this will, like I say, these comments are all going into a file that we're going to deal with all together. And that would be the first thing that we'll be looking at. Is that okay? All right, then. We'll move on to the next submission, and it's Neil Lance. And Oren Steinman is after Neil. So Neil, if you're there, go ahead.
Good morning, Council. Good to see everybody. What a privilege it is to follow the opening pitch of John Lazinger. Following him is a real privilege. As you know, Council, the JLA represents the interests of the lake community and its members. We have about 200 members. We, like you, the Council and the planners, do our best to carefully listen to our JLA members and to science, and to speak up on behalf of the environment, protecting water quality and the enduring health of the lake. We support the FO10 report in its entirety, all three pieces. It begs the question, why wouldn't anyone who cares about our lake support this? Thank you.
You're done, Neil?
Unbelievably, I am. Yes, for me, this is good.
I thought for sure I would need the timer there, but anyways, okay, thank you, Neil. Yeah, and we did get your message, and we did get a letter from you previously, so thank you. And short and to the point. So our next delegation here is Oren Steinman, and after that is Sally and Barry Rand. Oren, are you there? Okay. Having trouble. I can't hear Oren. I see he's unmuted. Or she, sorry.
Yeah. Through you, Mayor Martin, it appears that the microphone isn't working. Perhaps we could move along and come back to Oren.
Okay, we will come back, Oren, and we're not getting any, we can't hear you here. So I will move over to Sally and Barry Rand, and then I'll come back to you.
Thank you very much, Jim. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Council, for the chance to address this issue. I'm speaking on behalf of the Economic Development Cooperative of North Kawartha, which also includes residents on our neighboring lakes. So it includes Eels Lake and Jack Lake as well. And we have members on both sides of Sharpe's Bay. And so we do see this as a significant issue. I'm referring to the original 2017 email from the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change, as it was known in those days, where it referred to at capacity and development on Sharpe's Bay, but it is a general term. There was no specifics in terms of what land use kind of implications might come from that. It's my understanding, because I've been on council before and in talking with various planners, that the capacity of Sharpe's Bay was determined through extensive study, for sure, sampling of the water, and a complete inventory of existing properties, whether developed or not. It's my understanding that for years, MOE has had its at capacity determination that includes an allowance for all existing properties, whether developed or not. To ensure that Sharpe's Bay capacity is not exceeded in the future, it certainly makes sense that environmental assessments would be required to create any new lots. I've asked for a number of the documents that were used as part of the capacity study on Jack Lake, on Sharpe's Bay. And one of the principal participants in the whole effort to examine Sharpe's Bay has been David Lean. In his update to cottagers on Jack's Lake and smoke signals of a couple of years ago, he was gratified to find that the water quality, water clarity, and phosphorus levels were basically unchanged from their original state way back in the 50s. It is obvious then that the lake is, the Sharpe's Bay, is tolerating the current level of development quite well. Certainly because of the low water throughput, nutrients can accumulate. One of David's examples was a bag of phosphate fertilizer would put the bay over the top. And I just need to remind everyone that not just development is the cause of increasing phosphorus levels. Fertilizing lawns next to the lake is really an inappropriate practice. Over the years, the septic regulations have become very stringent. Setback, significant distance, better designs, and because of redevelopment and these regulations, the old style and inadequate systems have largely been replaced. It's our estimation then that quality risks to the water are not development related. I'm going to suggest that the official plan recommendation should provide clear framework for the zoning bylaws to permit ongoing development of existing properties. You should add wording, I would suggest, that encourages responsible land management, shoreline preservation, appropriate vegetation, and responsible use of fertilizer. One of the ways to control this kind of land management is site plan control. I'm certainly aware of what a cumbersome process that is, and I would suggest that that be their last resort in order to try to do that. Our recommendation is that the item F, which is proposed to be added to the official plan, should be put on hold until the Ministry of Environment, Conservation, and Parks, as it's currently known, can clarify what was meant in its 2017 email and confirms that more detailed explanation of its at capacity determination via communication to the clerks of both Havelock-Belmont-Methuen and North Kawartha. I would further suggest the municipalities determine just what authority MOECP has in terms of directing municipalities regarding their official plans content. Usually, provincial policy statements are the way in which the province establishes its priorities. And we certainly have history over the last 15 years when the 100-foot setback was never properly incorporated in the provincial policy statement. And the big question is just what priority the province is actually providing and authority giving to the Ministry of Environment and Conservation and Parks. But also suggest that the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, which is usually the lead ministry for municipalities, could be part of that determination. Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Barry. Yeah, and we are taking notes here, so everything's moving along here pretty good. And thank you for getting right to the point and keeping things on time. So our next, I'll ask Oren, did you get your audio to work there, Oren? You can try again here. You are muted. No, there, it's unmuted. Bianca, is that on that end that the problem is? Because we haven't had any troubles with anyone else.
Through you, Mayor Martin, the issue is not on our end.
Okay.
The
So I
delegate,
will come back. I'll try one more time after the next speaker, and then the next speaker would be Sarah Robertson, and I'll try Oren after that. And if it doesn't come on, I'm going to suggest that they do an email or phone in or something like that. So Sarah Robertson, are you there? Not hearing Sarah. All right, I'll move over to Anna Sharpe. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. Anna, are you there?
Yes, we'd like to pass right now.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Sarah, are you there yet? Sarah Robertson? Or Oren? Okay, I'll move over to Alex Costu. Alex, and then the next after that would be Kim Simmet. Alex, are you there?
I'm here. Thank you very much. I don't have a prepared statement. I'm here on behalf of Jack Lake Association. I'm the Vice President and Director of Government Relations, and I very much support Neil's short statement. We are very much supportive of all three amendments and believe that there's plenty of scientific evidence to support all three. As well, I'm on the side of the lake of North Kawartha, and it just makes sense that, you know, there should be a unified regulatory scheme. That's pretty much all I have to say. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Kim Simmet, are you there? All right. And the others were Oren. I don't know whether Oren got the audio working. If not, I'm going to ask that you prepare an email and send it in, or phone in. That might work better, but unfortunately we're not getting you here right now. All right then, and Sarah Robertson, are you there? All right then. Kim Simmet.
Here, but I really don't need to speak. I just want to hear everyone's point of view for now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next we have Ruth Davenport, and after that would be Jim Whalen. Ruth Davenport, are you there?
Yes, I am, and I'm just here in support of Jack Lake Association. Thank you.
All right then. Well, moving right ahead here. Jim Whalen, you there?
Yeah, I'm here somewhere, Jim. I have a very short statement because Barry Rand really has gone over most of what we had to say. The only thing that really concerns me on this thing is the way the notice was given. We never saw the letter. I should say email from the ministry until we got it off your website with your presentation today. The email came in to North Kawartha to Dorothy Page, who was a secretary there for some years, but didn't even work there in 2017. And as far as we can figure, we never got the email to start with. So, you know, very shabby work, certainly on the part of MOE, getting this out. And the only other small thing, guys, and this is against your planner, you share Sharpe's Bay with North Kawartha, and we never received any notification of this meeting. You know, a public meeting like this, we should have been one of the main people who received notification that this was even taking place. We had a member of the public come to us and say, you know, what do you think about this? And we didn't even know what he was talking about. And as I say, we had never received the first one. And the first we heard about it was when you guys, you know, brought it forward. So I'm just, I just wanted to put that in there. I know it has nothing to do with whether or not we agree with what's happening. It'll be coming to our council at a later date, but Barry wrapped it up very well, that we're very concerned about the present properties and being able to do the development on those. It really is necessary that the wording in your bylaw and the wording in this official plan, that section F, boy, it's of real concern to us. We think that should be revised. Thank you very much, Mr. Martin.
All right, thank you, Jim. And yeah, as far as the notice going out to North Kawartha, we'll look into that. But obviously something went wrong there, and we'll straighten that out. But everything that you've said will be is noted, and we'll work towards something there. So I did get a message here from Oren with regard to please explain definition of site alteration. I think that'll be explained better in the future here, as far as before we move ahead. There's a few questions around site alteration and development to clarify what exactly it means. So I'm sure that'll come out in the next step, I would think, Montana.
So the zoning bylaw currently does contain a definition for development. So we reviewed all the definitions when we were coming up with these policies, and we agreed with the current definition and didn't feel that it did need to be amended. The definition for development also encompasses site alteration, but it is something we could look into further if we feel additional clarity needs to be provided based on the comments we get today.
Okay, thank you. All right then. The next person on the list is Kathy Bagby. And then I'll check and see if Sarah Robertson has came back on.
Hi, good morning, Your Worship, members of council. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So my name is Raj K.R. and I'm legal counsel for Scott and Kathy Bagby. And with me here today is our in-house planner, Paul Cronus. He's somewhere on the screen. And then our clients are also on this Zoom meeting. Our clients are the owners of approximately 265 acres of land on Jack Lake. These lands are designated rural and shoreline in the township's official plan. Some of these lands extend into the township of North Kawartha, as does, of course, Jack Lake and Sharpe's Bay. Most of the 265 acres owned by our clients are directly impacted by the proposed amendments that are before you for input at this public meeting. Accordingly, our clients have a significant and serious interest in the proposed amendments. So our clients learned of the proposed amendments through the notice that was issued for this public meeting. They retained us to look into them. In order to do so, we searched the township's website for planning reports, technical studies, any analysis that was prepared in support of the proposed amendments. We didn't find anything. We also contacted the township as per the notice. It said to contact staff. We did so more than a week ago, and to date, we still haven't gotten any response. We now note that staff had put forth a brief report for this public meeting. It contains the background presentation from Fontaine, the township's external planning consultants. The presentation appears to have been made available as of yesterday afternoon. It was through submissions from other concerned residents that we also became aware of a background report from back in January. So we reviewed this additional information, and it continues to be our view that no cogent planning rationale and or technical justification has been provided that supports the proposed amendments as being necessary, appropriate, timely, or in the public interest. So we've got 3 requests for you today. First is that we ask for further public consultation on the proposed amendments before any decision to approve the proposed amendments might be made. Second, we ask for all information related to the proposed amendments to be provided to us and to be made publicly available on the township's website. Third, we ask for the opportunity for our client and its consultants to meet with township staff and its consultants, together with any or other interested stakeholders, to discuss in detail 2 things: all of the analysis in support of the proposed amendments, and in our client's case, their specific concerns with the proposed amendments. Now, we note that what we're asking for here is generally consistent with the next steps that FA10 has set out in their presentation in front of this council, except for one thing. We're asking for public consultation and specifically stakeholder consultation to occur prior to preparation of any recommendation report to council and following the release of all information in support of the proposed amendments. And we would ask council to direct staff to do so. Our clients would appreciate the opportunity to work through their concerns with the township prior to any decision being made by council. Our hope is that we can find a resolution to their issues, which could avoid any appeal to the local planning appeal tribunal. Our clients are asking for all information to be posted on the township's website so that the public at large may be aware of the proposed amendments and their potential to freeze development on Jack Lake in its entirety. So our client has a number of concerns that with the proposed amendments, and I'm going to very briefly highlight them, and there are 7. The first is that the proposed amendments appear to be predominantly rely on analysis that was prepared by the ministry. However, that analysis has not been disclosed, and so we don't know what it specifically says. We also don't know whether that analysis and the ministry position is current, as it appears to be reliant on analysis done back in 2008 and positions taken back in 2015. We do not know whether the ministry analysis was ever peer reviewed. We do not know, and it does appear that some other concerned residents have seen at least parts of the analysis and believe the proposed amendments go far beyond what the ministry found. Our client's view is that only parts of Jack Lake might be cold water, and yet the proposed amendment seeks to designate the whole lake, and as such is far-reaching. Our client's view is that the proposed amendments are in part aimed at protecting a fishery. However, it is not clear based on the definition of fishery in the Oxford Dictionary whether Jack Lake is a fishery. If it is not a fishery, why is the township seeking the proposed amendments? Also, number 2, any planning analysis should indicate how it would balance any additional constraints the proposed amendments might impose against development rights associated with existing lots of record. There needs to be protection for existing lots of record. It is also not clear to us whether the proposed amendments would conform with the county official plan, as the proposed amendments appear to impose more restrictive development constraints than are contained in the county's OP. Really, what should happen here is the county's OP should be updated first, and then the township's OP should follow in conformity. The need for the proposed amendments to be in conformity with the county OP is of particular concern here because part of Jack Lake, as you know, is in the township of North Kawartha, which is only governed by the county's OP. So you don't want to have a circumstance where the proposed amendments result in a regime where you have a different level of development constraints on Jack Lake, depending on what portion of or what township you're in. The proposed amendments related to boathouses appear to modify policy that is currently under appeal before the tribunal. It's not clear to us whether there's even jurisdiction to make those amendments, or rather the township that has jurisdiction to make those amendments. Our client also previously reached a settlement with the township through appeals of its official plan that resulted in the deletion of a policy identifying Jack Lake as a cold water lake. The township is now once again seeking to bring forth the same policy that it previously agreed to delete. There needs to be a comprehensive justification in our view as to why that should occur, and we haven't seen that. There are also a number of drafting issues we have with the proposed amendment. So our client has further reasons and concerns that it will highlight to staff if it is given the opportunity to engage in stakeholder consultation. We reiterate our request for that consultation with township staff and its consultants before any recommendation report may be brought forward to council. We also reiterate our request for all information, studies, and reports related to the proposed amendment to be provided to us and made available on the township's website. With that, those are our client submissions, unless there are any questions.
Okay, thank you. And all of those will be dealt with as far as we move through this. And that's one of the reasons why we will be taking emails or submissions up until May 31st, because it will still circulate amongst the public, and some people, we want to make sure everyone has a chance here. So I think that'll help with that part of it. So thank you for your presentation. And is there any questions from council there? All right, then we'll move on to the next one. Thank you, Mr. Carr. Next, we have Ambrose Moran. I don't see his name on here. If you're there, Ambrose.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Thank you very much. I sent in a series of submissions you'll have at this point, and I'll just give a brief summary of them all. And I realize they're available for public record, but if anybody wants them directly from me, they're welcome to contact me. So submission number one is very simple. I think we got two issues here. We got the at capacity of the lake and the lake classification generally as a trout lake. And then we have the prohibition of boathouses, on-land boathouses. And I really think these are two totally separate issues. And I would like to ask council to try to find a mechanism to deal with them separately that maybe you can act on one quicker than the other if there's an issue. So that's submission number one. Submission number two. So the matter of Sharpe's Bay being designated as or classified by the province as a at capacity lake and that type of thing, that happened back, I believe it happened in 2014. At that time, it was the County of Peterborough was notified just at the point where they were about to approve the Havelock-Belmont-Methuen official plan, which had been adopted in 2012. My appeal to that, one of the items, and it has since been rectified, is to actually define where Sharpe's Bay boundaries were. And we see in the FO10 presentation, there's maps showing it. But what my suggestion in submission number two is that those illustrations be actually incorporated in both the zoning bylaw and the official plan, so people know where the policies that affected or any regulations affected. So that really what number two says is I really want some illustrations within the document so people understand where the scope of this thing applies. So submission number three is the subject of prohibiting on-land boathouses, and I fully support proceeding with this item. I do have that under appeal since 2012 or 13 under the bylaw 202155-204, and it's the OMB case number PL 121435. And that particular item of my appeal could be resolved if council in fact proceeds with this. So I'm encouraging council to proceed with the prohibition, and that would satisfy that one item of my appeal. a subject there in that the wording of that is that we keep using this term marine facility, and I'd ask if there's a way of actually not using that term. Marine facility seems to be a catch-all for boathouses and docks, and now we do actually have definitions of docks under your dock bylaw, and we have definition of boathouses under this bylaw. I really think it's confusing to use this term marine facility, and I prefer that the final paperwork does not include the use of the word marine facilities. And in that submission, there'd be a photograph showing a lakes with a large number of boathouses along the edge of it, and another lake with no boathouses on it. And there are a few people that seem to think that they like to look at boathouses, but most of the people come here to our region to appreciate the natural environment and the landscape in an undeveloped state. So that's the basis of that particular submission. Submission number 4 is some wording in section 33411. It says that the Ministry of Natural Resources, in conjunction with the Ministry of Environment, shall monitor fish habitat, including water quality. I have some trouble with the wording as to whether an official plan of a township should dictate to the provinces what they shall do. And I think the wording should be more along the lines of it would be appropriate to include a provision for council to update development capacity classifications of lakes based on future results and modeling of fish habitat by the provincial agencies. I heard something earlier about the data for this particular decision is getting a little bit outdated, and there's no question it's a moving target, and the province continues to model these lakes, and they're classified now as a cold water lake, but maybe under global warming they're going to be warm water lakes. And I know of certain lakes that have been already reclassified from cold water to warm water. So I think it's more that the wording should be that council should respond to the provincial agencies doing any future modeling rather than dictating that they shall be doing something. The next submission is the one I think is the most important. Is the question is, what is at capacity for development? So when I appealed the at capacity decision in the Havelock-Belmont-Methuen official plan in 2014, it was for 2 reasons. One was that there was never any public process preceding the decision by the County of Peterborough to state that Sharpe's Bay was at capacity. And the other interesting was that the word development seemed to be unclear to me as to what it included. And my initial interpretation was, and it's since been confirmed, is that development, in fact, which incidentally is used 719 times in the county official plan and 455 times in the Havelock-Belmont official plan. So it's important to understand what is intended to be permitted or prohibited. And the development terminology, I've now leaned on the actual definition that's in the County of Peterborough's official plan. And the way that I read it and interpret it, and other people have interpreted, is that development includes additions to existing buildings. So I think the current interpretation that I have of what at capacity would mean would prohibit additions to existing buildings on Sharpe's Bay. Now, I shared my concern about why I had appealed it to other people. And at one point, the Jacks Lake Cottage Association, one of their directors interviewed a biologist from Ministry of Natural Resources who was involved in the classification and asked that question particularly is, what does it mean by capacity for development? And in the recorded interview, or the records of that interview, she said that it would include additions to cottages or dwellings which should not be permitted to encroach the 30-meter setback. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay.
You got just over a minute left there, Ambrose.
Okay. I'll finish up really quickly, but this is important. So the the interesting thing is that the person who was involved in the classification was under the impression that this would affect additions to existing buildings. And so when I looked further at this document, there's a section of the County Official Plan 4.4, which says that local plans will implement the policies of at capacity by defining development for the purpose of at capacity.
I hear that.
Just a second there,
Just now?
Art, you're gonna have to, Councillor Webb, you're gonna have to mute your, there you go, thank you. Sorry, Ambrose.
So there is a section in the County Official Plan 4.4 that allows for a definition to be used for development as relates to at capacity. And my submission is that we should develop a definition for development related to Sharpe's Bay at capacity and take into account some reasonable approach to dealing with the lots of records and dealing with additions and replacement of existing buildings. There's a bit longer explanation in my submission, which you can study, but that's the main thing, is that I think the issue about what constitutes development and what would be restricted or on Jack's Lake because of the at capacity definition. So that's basically my submission.
All right, thank you, Ambrose. And yes, we do have your documents there, and they will be reviewed. So thank you for that. And you did make it under the 10 minutes. I didn't think you were gonna, but did well. Anyways, the next one we have here is, well, I'll see, is Sarah Robertson, are you there, or you? I'm still not hearing, so if Sarah does hear that, she can submit by email. That would do the same thing here. So Paul Zuliani, hopefully I pronounced that right. You're next on this list, and that's the last one I have listed. So I will be asking if anybody else wishes to make a submission, but Paul Zuliani, are you there?
Yes, I am here, if you can hear me.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mayor and members of council, for hearing me out on the matters before you today. I have submitted a letter, and I do understand it's part of the submission package, not on the original agenda, but received last night. I will say that I understand that this is a fairly complicated matter and important to both council and the residents or cottage owners of Jack Lake. And it's fairly complicated, and it requires council to balance the interests of the environment and the private property rights of individuals. My purpose is simply to ensure that cottage owners understand that there are implications regarding the adoption of these amendments on their development rights. Certainly, each one of these amendments will impact the ability of individuals to develop, and the cost and the hardships involved. And in many cases, it's quite appropriate. However, I just wanted to make it clear that those are impacts, and the details of my submission are in my letter. I also would suggest that if council is leaning towards the adoption of some of these amendments, that, as many other speakers have indicated, that the amendments provide some more clarity so that development rights and requirements are clearly laid out, so that there's no misinterpretation of matters in the future. And that's where things get complicated when someone comes in for applications to develop. It's the interpretation of the policies and the bylaw that sometimes causes issues and difficulties. And if things are adopted and are clear, then those issues will not exist. But if they are adopted and are unclear, it could cause problems. So that is my submission today. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to members of council.
Well, thank you. And yes, a lot of this is complicated, and that said, we are taking our time to make sure we get this right. So, and a lot of people have suggested that we break it into 3 separate issues, and that's something we will look at. So that's the end of the listed delegations. Is there anyone else that came in after the agenda was put out there yesterday that has any new things that they would like to add for submission, or they can do it by email, like I say. Is there anyone there that wishes to make a submission? All right then. I'm not hearing any. I don't know whether Bianca or Bob have had anything come in through email or anything like that. Is there anything else there, Bob, that needs to be addressed here as part of the submissions today?
Through you, Mayor Martin, we do not have anything else at this time. If anyone attempted to email us, we were having some technology issues earlier today, so we will certainly add that to future files and future reports.
Okay, does council have any? Oh, sorry, I do see one coming in through a chat there. Donna Marie, to everyone, she'd like to say something. Is Donna Marie there then? Donna Marie?
Can you hear me?
There we go. Yeah.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
Okay, never mind. Sorry.
Donna Marie, we can hear you if you would like to speak.
Oh, you can hear me?
Yeah. Yes, we can.
Yeah, okay. This my battery is going dead here and I'm having a real problem. I just want to, the battery is going dead. I don't know what to do. Anyway, I'm really concerned about the urbanization of northern lakes. And I think we have to take into account that we have a climate crisis on our hands. We can't discount that. Everybody has to take that into account. The health of the lake depends on healthy habitat for wildlife, not just water quality. And development necessarily means a detrimental impact on wildlife and on the health of the lake in general. I think we have to look at the big picture and not just our right to develop. I like what was proposed originally, ending development on the lake.
All right, thank you, Donna Marie. And it sounds like you're rushed there. If you want to put an email in, that's fine to help you get your thoughts together. Go ahead, Bob.
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin, if we could get a full name for the record, please.
Donna Marie, do you have your full name? And I should have done that with everyone. It's most of them we knew, but anyways, when you do put your emails in, would like you to put your name and address and along with your submission. So I think she's gone there, Bob. So was there anyone else that wish to make a submission today? So I'm not hearing any right now. Does council have any questions or comments or anything that they would like to say before we wrap things up? Okay. I'm not seeing anything. So anyways, I want to thank everyone who came out and put their submission in, and all of this will be put together and we will be dealing with it in the future. Like I said, you can email up until May 31st if you want to get something in, and then we'll put these things together and see how we move forward. So thank you everyone for coming out today. And with that, I'll look for a motion for the confirming bylaw. Deputy Mayor Giroux, and seconded by Councillor Ellis. All in favor, and that's carried. And a motion to adjourn, Councillor Pomeroy, and a seconder for that. I can't see Councillor Webb, so I'm going to take Deputy Mayor Giroux. Thank you. All in favor of the adjournment, and that's carried. Thank you.